It's time for the Movin The Chains podcast. Your home for high school football coverage in the Palmetto State. Every team, every game, every week. And now your hosts, Kevin Thomas and John Epps.
Welcome in to Movin The Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside John Epps. Jerel Hendricks back on the board as always. We are here for our 3A, 4A, 5A season preview. John, we knocked out 1A, 2A skis last night. Here for the bigger classes here tonight, John. We saw a lot of scrimmages last night. We saw some odd scores in scrimmages last night. We'll put it that way. Jamboree's Friday, man. Football just, 10 days away now at this point.
Yeah, we're getting ever closer. And one of my favorite parts of football was the jamborees.
Yeah.
So cool. A lot of them are happening this weekend. I know there's some. Most are Friday. I think there might be one or two on Saturday. I think that Kershaw County Jamboree is on Saturday over at Camden High School. But it's exciting just to see. You get to see a bunch of teams all at once, play a quick little, usually quick 2 quarters. It's exciting. And then next week we got the real thing.
If you guys tuned in for the first time, we really appreciate you. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter /X, Instagram, YouTube, and more at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS. Our website, movinchains.com. Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. We go live every Tuesday night during the season for a weekly preview show about 7:15 on Facebook and YouTube. Right now, we're live on Instagram as well. If you guys tune in on Instagram, we appreciate that. Love for you to move over to Facebook and YouTube. It's easier to see the comments that way, but as long as you're watching, we really do appreciate it. But check us out next Tuesday as well for our weekly preview show as we break down all the week 0 action, including games of the week, statewide scoreboard, and more. Also got plenty of player interviews coming out, a lot of videos from the summer dropping here in the next few days as well. Before we get into it, John, as always, get you guys some Movin The Chains merch. Get some hats, get some toboggans, Richardson 112 hats, really good stuff there. We got sweatshirts as well for those colder weather games. You see the email address there. You can send us an email or hit us up with a DM on any of the social media platforms. Is great. Love to hear from you, but get your Movin The Chains merch. But John, let's start now with the 3A ranks. We'll run through the state prep poll, the prep media poll that dropped this week. Once again, not our poll, the prep poll. We'll go through that, give our thoughts, give some favorites, some sleepers, some predictions, and we'll go through starting the 3A class now.
Yeah, so 3A this year is pretty decimated. This is a small class from a numbers perspective. We'll get into that here in a moment as well. But the top 10, starting with number 10, surprised me right off the bat, Marlboro County, number 10. A tie for 8th between Broome and Powdersville. 7th is Silver Bluff. 6th is Pendleton after a great 2023 season for Pendleton. 5 is Chapman. 4 is new name Christ Church. 3, Dillon getting 1 first place vote. 2nd is Oceanside. They get 6 first place votes. And number 1 for 3A getting 10 of the first place votes, Belton Honeypath. We know all about Marquise Henderson and what he can do for the Bears.
A interesting poll here in 3A where, I like the top couple names. I love BHP. I love Oceanside. I like Dillon as well. They're replacing a lot, but I do like Dillon. Then I like some names kind of at the bottom, and in the others who votes to that middle is where I get a little bit murky, really, in 3A. But BHP, you mentioned Marquise Henderson, Clemson commit, great player there. Noah Thomas, the quarterback, he's back as well. 4 offensive line returners. Henderson had a big year last year, going to do even more this season, you would think. 7 returners on offense in total, 8 on defense. That team is poised to make a deep run there. The second squad you said there, Oceanside Collegiate, coming up from 2A, the 2A state champs last year, and they are loaded again. Sophomore quarterback now, Aiden Manavian, who led them to the state title victory as a freshman last year. I think he had 360 in that state title win. Could throw it over the field. He's back. Will Virgilio's back for Coach Wilkes' squad there. They're a team to watch out for. I love Max Mormon on defense as well for them, along with Kyle Baldwin and some other guys that the Land Sharks are. They have a great football team. I think they'll be a contender. Outside of that, John, I like Dillon. I like Christ Church. And I like a couple teams there at the bottom where I really like Marlboro County. I think a team, some of these guys are receiving votes we'll get to in a minute as well. But what do you think about that kind of that middle level there, kind of that 3 through 7 or 8 spot? Because a lot of teams there where I think they've got some talent, got to prove a couple things here and there. But what did you take kind of on the middle part of that poll?
Yeah, I think what stands out to me is Christ Church at 4. We know how good they are, but at 1A, seeing how they can make that transition to 3A, I don't know where I would have put them in the top 10 if I would put them in the top 10. But I think it'll be very interesting to see how they compete at that level. Chapman is a program. They were a little bit in the shadows last few years. Last year, they bounced back, had a really good year last year. I think Chapman is, at least for me, is a team that really has an opportunity to make a lot of noise, maybe get to Columbia or Orangeburg at the end of the season for a Weekend of Champions. It'll be interesting to see how Pendleton is. They had incredible offense last year. Can they replicate that this year? I'm not sure what they have coming back. What's new pieces for Pendleton? Broome had a great running back last year. He's going to be somewhere else. We'll get into that. But I really I think Christ Church and Chapman, those are the two I'm really keeping an eye on, because I think those two, BHP is going to get a lot of press with Marquise Henderson, Oceanside, obviously, and deservingly so with how good they've been at 2A. But I think nobody should be sleeping on Chapman and Christ Church. I think they're going to really make a presence as well.
Christ Church, 13-2 last year, back-to-back 1A state champs. They return a lot of pieces. Quarterback Tucker Hendricks is back, had a big year last year for them. Wide receiver Jackson Rep, Jude Hall as well is back up, is outside for those guys. Great players there. They do have to replace Deshaun Reeder, the great running back up at Northwestern now. They got a freshman, Michael Martin, a kid to watch out for there. Defensively led by Will Margee and Ford Glenn. Coach Hatfield does a fantastic job there. I think Christ Church can be a contender in 3A this year. I really do. Chapman, I worry about Chapman. They just lost so much there. They do have Kamari Turner back in the D-line. I like him. I like Colt McPeters out wide on offense and playing the DB spot on defense. They have some talent there as well. Pendleton, Abijah Webb, great player. They've had a great offense last couple of years. You mentioned that, John. They do have a new quarterback, a freshman, Jace Grass, taking over. 8 defensive players back. That's kind of been their bugaboo lately, where they score a lot of points, can't stop a lot of folks. With 8 guys back on defense, that's got to take a step forward. You think they could make some noise for sure there at Pendleton? So I do worry a little about Broome. I worry a little about Silver Bluff as well. Both teams just lost so much talent. Broome, you lose your quarterback, you lose your running back, you lose your best offensive lineman. Silver Bluff, you lose tons of studs on defense along with your head coach. The Bluff, I'm sure they've got talent. They always do, but I just don't know how early in the season they'll make a splash. It may take them a few weeks to kind of get that figured out there. Powdersville, upper state title winners 2 years ago, took a step back last year. They lost a lot of pieces, but they could have some guys come back. Kagan Reed at quarterback, Joshawn Knuckles, wide receiver DB, Javier Mills at linebacker. Really like Elijah Hudgens. He's a great player outside for them, really an X-factor, explosive playmaker. I like him a lot there. I do want to talk about this Marlboro County team. That's a team at 10 that feels too low for me.
Okay.
New head coach Corey Johnson comes over from Clinton, North Carolina, brings in a whole new coaching staff, a lot of new coaches from across the border, along with a lot of new players as well. They have a ton of studs. They've got wide receiver DB Justin Purvis, running back Josiah Robinson, defensive lineman Josiah Dwyer, DB Jakarian Keenan. Both those guys are already D1 commits. I believe one to Rutgers came out, came to the other school, but they already got D1 commits there on that squad. They're going to be tough. I love that region with those guys in Dillon and Loris. I think Marlboro County is a sleeper. They're sitting kind of low in the poll right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think they have to prove it a little bit. They haven't been that elite level of Marlboro County lately. And the big test for Marlboro County is that Dillon game. You know, because we've looked forward to that game the last few years, and Dillon has owned it. For me, until Marlboro County can be really competitive with Dillon, to me, they're not on the radar, because if you can't compete with Dillon, you're not going to compete. I don't think you're going to compete with the rest of the top 5. Now, I think Dillon could be a completely different story this year as well. They've got some new looks new quarterback for them on their team. I'm not sure we know who it is yet, but we know that it will not be who they had last year. So I'm reserving a little bit of judgment on Marlboro game. They certainly have a high ceiling. They certainly have the capability of being pretty special this year, but I want to see him prove it on the field first.
Let's talk about Dillon, running back Jamarian Flink, one of my favorite players in the state. 1,500 plus yards last year, 34 touchdowns. And the year before that, had a huge year on defense, tons of pick sixes and whatnot. He's a stud in the backfield. You mentioned they lost their quarterback. Currently, they're working Ramon Chandler there right now. They've got a couple guys, Domo Felton as well. That's a stud. The defense, they always have players there. We know that. The story I'm following in Dillon, I don't know how public this is. I hope I don't get in trouble for this. They've got a transfer coming in. I know they're trying to get him reclassed as a freshman. If he gets to play, he's going to be a stud. They're waiting to see if that happens yet. We'll see how that shakes out. But I think Dillon, under Coach Roller, are always a contender. They certainly have a chance to make a deep run. John, let's look at some of these others receiving votes. Who do we have on that list? And do you like anybody out of that group to make a deep playoff run?
There's some hot names on this list.
Yes.
All right. There's a lot, so stick with me here. We've got Hanahan. Really like Hanahan.
Yep.
We've got New School, Mountain View Prep. They call themselves MVP. You got to like that. They've got a ton of talent. We can talk about that in a second. Loris, who I think is going to be a sleeper as well.
It's my boys, the Lions.
Loris is right there. Keenan has been a solid group last few years. St. Joseph's making that jump from 1A to 3A this year. Woodruff, who had some momentum last year, seeing if they can roll that into this year, if they can keep improving. Battery Creek, another 1A, Southside Christian, that's very, very good. And then Ainer as well, all receiving votes. And I tell you what, I think almost all of these, very deservingly so.
You know, Hanahan, I really like those guys. Quarterback Julius Hippensteel is back. Wide receiver Drew Goldsmith is a playmaker. I like that squad there for Coach Turner in year 2. Mountain View Prep, we got to talk about those guys. Head coach Gray Ramsey made some noise, got some new players coming in. They got Jalen McGill, star running back from Broome last year. He's probably going to be a 4-star, 5-star, Power 5 guy here as a junior this year. Quarterback Bryson Drummond, we've seen him play at Greenville a lot last year. He's a great player. KD Hainsworth from over at Dorman comes over. The worry with a new school like that is, do they have the depth they need to compete, and do they have the upfront play on offensive defensive line? That is the big question. We know they got talent for sure. Do they have that on that side of the ball, or in those trenches there to make some noise? But I think they've got a lot of talent. Could certainly surprise some teams this season.
Yeah, and you just look to see the talent, some of the kids they've gotten to bring into this program. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I, again, we talked about this a little bit in the 1A, 2A SCSA preview last night. These new schools, I'm not giving them bumpers here, because we saw Catawba Ridge be very good out the gate. We saw Lucy Beckham has been very competitive very early on as well. They can do it.
Yeah.
They can do it. And I think they are going to be a big problem for a lot of 3A schools. They're going to be a really fun group to watch. 2
teams in that receiving votes that I really like, I think should be top 10 teams right now. And that's Loris is one. And then Newberry. You look at Loris. 2 years ago, had a really good season. Had some injuries, kind of derailed them late there. They've got, one of the best names in the state playing quarterback right now, Moon Jerel. The kid's a stud, playing great ball this summer. He's going to be a big-time factor for them. We got wide receivers Jacobian Lewis and Quantez Dyson. 3 offensive linemen they've been starting for 3 years are back for them. Defensive end Javon Johnson's a great player as well. I like what Coach Mance is doing there for the Lions. I think that region I mentioned earlier, Marlboro County and Dillon, Loris, I think is right there as well as a contender to win that region there in 3A. And then Newberry. We talked to Coach Jeter, I guess it would have been 2 years ago when he got that job. Very, very young group at that point. They're growing up, and they've got some big-time playmakers. Wide receiver tight end Jamel House is back. He's a stud, really good player. Quarterback Bryce Satterwhite as well is back for another season there. Athlete CJ Earl, linebacker Jared Acosta. Those young guys have grown up. I think they're poised to make a big move in 3A this season.
Yeah, and this can be. I'm looking at while you're talking, I'm looking at the 3A playoff bracket. I know it's a lot of 2A schools are in 3A now, so it's a little bit different. But I see a lot of these teams that we've got here in the top 10 and go, yeah, they got beat in second round. They got beat here or there. They got beat by somebody that's not in 3A this year.
Yeah, 3A is the class that hit the hardest, it feels like.
Yeah, and I'm disappointed it's so small, because 3A is such a good classification, just with the size of schools and everything about it. But to that point, I think 3A is going to be pretty wide open.
Yeah.
And I think throughout the entire season, especially in region play, it's going to be really exciting to watch, who's good and proves it and, stays there and who is, who comes onto the scene. Because, every year there's a couple teams that come bust out week 3 or 4, go, oh, wow, these guys are 3-0, they're 4-0. It happens every year. So it's going to be fun. I think 3A is going to be, while small, very competitive.
Yeah, Jerel, any teams you want to talk about in 3A? I've got a couple more I want to mention as well. I want to bring you in and see if you have any comments or thoughts on this 3A class.
Man, I think it is. It's a situation where I felt like it got gutted a little bit, with teams going up and teams going down. But there is some really quality, quality teams that we're going to see here. But more importantly, some quality players. And, the Jimmies and Joes, like you talked about, Fling at Dillon. We're talking about, obviously, MVP, having Jalen McGill go over there. Obviously, Marquise Henderson at BHP, Webb at Pendleton. I mean, there's some really, really great football players. And I think it's going to be cool to watch these teams who maybe took a step back last year, who are going to try to reassert themselves, or maybe even the last few years. When you look at a Marlboro County with the noise that they have made, not just with players, but with coaches, flying into that program. Powdersville, how do they bounce back off the mat, after a down year last year? I think there's going to be, not just great football. There's going to be some really cool storylines. And like John said, there's going to be some sleepers. There's going to be some teams that come out of nowhere that we're not going to anticipate. But guys, we'll jump into the comments real quick. You can tell that we've moved up to 3, 4, and 5A. We got more eyes on the screen, and we definitely have a lot more comments as well.
Let's do it. Rod says, keep your eyes on Lawrence. Hey, I'm big on Lawrence this year, Rod. Coach Manson's done a great job there. I was howling him 2 years ago. Got kind of caught at the end of the year with some injuries there. Last year, not as big a season, but this year they are ready to make a deep run, I feel like. I like the Lions a lot. Anthony says, Marlboro will be way better. Yes, sir. No doubt about it. I'm interested in offense. I've heard that Coach Johnson runs a similar offense, kind of what Ainer does, where they just really run it up, just really ground and pound you a lot. And we'll see.
Turtle offense.
Yeah, ton of athletes out there. See how the Bulldogs can adjust and make some noise this season. Cam says, Hanahan's the best team in 3A. One of the best. I agree. Drew Goldsmith, Hip and Steel. Love those guys there. Love Coach Turner, Coach Fields, Coach Willis. Fantastic job down there with the Hawks. Billy says, Marlboro County has a lot of players from North Carolina. Yeah, a lot of guys moving across the state line to come play for them. Nathan says, check out Chapman's schedule, probably the hardest in 3A. They do have a lot of really big guys. They got Daniel, I think, week 0. So it'll be a tough test for Coach Cab's squad.
They do that every year.
Nathan said MVP, the only team that give BHP a game in the upstate.
Ooh.
Certainly could be. I think Christchurch as well is one to watch out for, but I think, BHP is probably the favorite in the upper state.
They get Broome week 0.
Cam says got Hanahan going to state this year. Hey, could happen. I know they've a little bit lower on numbers than they'd like to be at Hanahan this year, but I'm sure they will be ready to roll. Zach says BHP should be state championship or bust this year. I mean, it's got to be for Coach Blackson's squad. It's got to be. Bradley, I agree. The classes are all different now. I got them printed out beside me because I'm not 100% sure on some of these guys. So I'm definitely doing the same as you, my man. Billy says Dillon and Marlboro lower state champs. I don't think I pick in a minute. And
I'm saying neither.
It's not one of those, but it certainly could be. I do have a couple Instagram comments as well. Chris says go Hillcrest. DJ Chain says MVP. Preston says Berkeley. We'll get 5A in a minute. 86 says BHP. Says BHP was not 2A last year. Correct. I don't know if we said that. Sorry, we didn't mean to. Jason, what's going on, man? Jason, photography, and appreciate you being in here. Zach Odom says Jackson Rep, best player in 3A. He's another name, Jerel. You didn't mention Jackson Rep, a stud receiver there for the Cavaliers. Rich Junkie says Abbeville Panthers. We've got Midland Valley says India replacing North Augusta hat with the Midland Valley hat. Hey, send us one and we'll put it on the display for sure. Get us the Midland Valley hat.
They got a great logo.
Love to have that. No doubt about it. Let's see. DJ Louse is talking about West Side. We'll get to 4A here in a minute. We got some South Aiken comments as well. Get to them here in a second. Chris asked about Southside Christian. 3rd year in a row, new quarterback. Got Jack Criswell coming in for Coach Sonny Bourne squad there. Running back Christian Kaiser, I like him a lot defensively. Jeremiah Jackson, Bryson Duck, both good players there for the Sabres. Another team that's just taken a big step up to 3A. We will see how they can compete. I think they've got a good chance in that region. They've got St. Joe's, Powdersville, Christchurch in there with them. I think they can make some noise. I don't know if they're a state title level team this year, but I do like the Sabres. I do want to mention Walhalla. Good friend Coach Stone there. Silas Parrish, 290 tackles combined over the last 2 years. Huge numbers for him. Running back, Landon Robinson, 11 touchdowns is back. 7 starters back on offense. They're a team to watch, I think, in the upstate there. Cody says, let's go to Big Silver Bluff. The Bluff always has players. And then Woodruff, quarterback, TJ Morris, 2,700 yards last year. Sophomore running back, Aiden Gibson. He looks really good. Wide receiver Corey Moats, linebackers Jordan Hood and Hunter West at safety for year 2. Head coach Brett Sloan there. Let's see who else we got.
I agree. Newberry's gonna be good.
The Real says Clinton. Yeah, we broke down Clinton last night in 2A. Go back and watch that one. Newberry definitely to watch. We agree, Brantley. Newberry is a great squad this year. Love what Coach Cedric Jeter is doing there. Drill. Any other comments on 3A or just anything in general before we make our way too early state title predictions?
Nah, it's time to do it, guys. Let's go and make these predictions.
John, you or me? Drill, who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'll get it out the way. I'll get it out the way. You guys have been talking for the last 15 minutes.
I know you're going to steal
I'm not going to steal anything. I'm going BHP in the upper state just because those guys were
He's stealing it.
I'm not trying to steal anything. Marquise Hendrickson.
Stealing it.
Fantastic player there. They're so deep. They've had so much success the last year. My heart broke going to that game. The upper state final last year between them and Daniel. I mean, he played his tail off and, kind of fumbled there at the end. They were going to go in and win that game in Daniel, which teams do not do. I think they get it back this year. And then going to the lower state, man, there's so many good teams. But this may be a little bit controversial. I may go Oceanside. I think Oceanside.
Stole it. I want Oceanside BHP as well. That's who I'm taking, Drill. We're on the same train there. I think that's the matchup.
It's Coach Wilkes, Aiden Manavian, dude. Like, I cannot get over how good that kid was in the state title game in 2A last year. And he's only going to get bigger and better. I mean, he stole the show as a freshman. It may have been the best performance by an individual that entire championship weekend. And he was a true freshman playing quarterback on that big stage, playing in the first game, the state, the primetime Thursday night state title game. So give me Oceanside, give me BHP.
Same. I got Oceanside BHP as well. Who do you like, John?
Same, and I think Oceanside's going to beat them.
Now I'm worried. Okay, we got it all changed, it feels like now. Wild to say there in 3A. Drill, any more comments on that chat? I got a couple more on Instagram if you got any more on that side. Nelson's at 3A has some great football. No doubt about it. I think there's a lot of parity there. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 teams that are maybe a step above, but outside that, I think it's really, really going to be competitive there. Yep, the Blufftown just got some, like we said earlier, lost a lot of pieces. They've got talent. We just don't know the names of some of those guys yet, but they will certainly make some noise as they always do down in the CSRA.
And Bradley, Daniel, you mentioned, learning these classifications. Daniel is going up to 4A, so we'll get to them in a little bit.
Yep. Let's see. We got to go Bruins in here. We've got, let's see, Gray Collegiate. Y'all got it. We got you, Gray Collegiate. We'll talk to you guys here in 4A in just a second. Let's see. A comment from DJ Loud says Anderson County got the best football in the state. They are playing great football. You mentioned BHP and Westside, man. It's two of the best programs for sure.
TLL, nothing to sneeze at either.
Yeah, another comment here from Joey says Bluff South Aiken will be game of the year. That would surprise me, but certainly could be.
Never know.
Jerel, let's run some commercial friends of the program here. RJ says go Chapman. RJ, I'm really excited about that team because you mentioned they lost the running back, 2 running backs, the quarterback, the receiver. Coach Cab does a great job there. Before that, Coach Hodge did a great job there. They've got playmakers. We know they do. Just who's going to step up, who's going to fill those roles for sure. But it will be a fun season for the Panthers. Drill.
Reload.
Let's pop in some commercials here, and then we'll roll up, I guess, to 4A.
Need a new ride to get you to the big game? Founders Federal Credit Union has auto loan rates that'll get you in the driver's seat without breaking the bank. And here's the best part. No payment for up to 90 days. Drive to victory with a loan that suits your budget. Visit foundersfcu.com/auto today and score your dream car with an auto loan from Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Member qualification required.
The George Agency has been serving the insurance needs of South Carolina for over 40 years. They're a full-line insurance agency concentrated in employee benefits and health insurance with an office in Mullins and Murrells Inlet, but they can help you all across the state. They have clients in Greer, Rock Hill, Columbia, and more, so wherever you are, they can help. Give Bradley, Wayne, Richard, and the crew a call or check them out online at thegeorgeagency.net. That's thegeorgeagency.net. Okay, John, before we take a look at the 4A ranks, as always, guys, if you missed 3A, we just finished that. You can go back and watch it later on. If you missed 1A to a Skiza, that's on last night's show. It's still on our social page. You can go watch that as well. But John, let's take a look now at 4A, a new look class as well, with what could be the deepest class in all of South Carolina. I feel like this 4A slate is just loaded this year.
Yeah, this is some really, really good 4A teams thrown in with some really good 3A teams as well to see what is that gap between what was 4A and what was 3A. And there's a reason these classifications change, enrollment, of course. But we've seen it time and time again, and I've put much less weight on a school being the bigger school and that's why they should win. If you got talent, you got talent. Yeah. And 4A has got a boatload of it this year. Starting at 10 is Gilbert. Gilbert is number 10 in 4A, that program. Number 9, Brooklyn Casey. They were awesome last year. Really fun program to watch. 8, Midland Valley, the Mustangs. 7, Hartsville. It's good and then better.
Yeah.
6 is Gray. You got Camden coming in at 5, South Point at 4, Daniel at 3. Really fun to see them jump up a classification. 2, South Florence, and 1, defending state champs, Westside Rams.
Talk about loaded. I mean, this class is absolutely loaded, John. Let's start at the top. Westside, defending state champs, had a great season last year, a great run throughout the playoffs, and they've got so many guys back for Coach Brian Lane. Cutter Woods, the South Carolina commit, he's back, had 4,000 yards, 42 touchdowns last season. Running back Sherrod Richardson is back. He has got the juice. He's a speedy guy to the backfield. I love what he does, what he brings that game, big play ability there, game-breaking ability, that running back set for them. Transfer playmakers, Camarius Bomar, Amani Weaver, both App State commits. They'll play probably both sides of the ball, receiver and DB. They're really good players for them. In Westside, one thing I like about this squad, John, they've got so much talent back. We just said that. But they're not afraid to play big teams. They've got a super tough non-region schedule. A couple teams out of Georgia. They're playing Creekside here in week 0. They have a loaded out-of-conference schedule. You're going to find out really quickly just how good they are. I mean, Coach Lane and the boys, they're aiming to go back to Orangeburg. They want to run these, play these games to make sure they're ready for region play and for the playoffs. And they're going to be a super fun team to watch. That Rams offense is always explosive.
Yeah, the scary thing is that they lose a great receiver in Boston.
Jamar Boston and Josh Williams, both guys playing Division I football now.
And they're going to replace them with 2 more guys that play Division I football next year. So, I mean, it is, we've seen Weaver and Bomar play for the last few years. They've been incredible talents. This team is going to be scary, scary good. Carter Woods another year to develop, another year to improve his skill set. Mm-hmm. Got that South Carolina offer. He's committed to be a Gamecock right now. That should tell you a lot right there, how good this kid is, how high his ceiling still is after having another great season. I mean, this team you look at and you go, I don't know who could beat them. I don't know who can beat them. Yeah. But you know what? The crazy thing is, we said the exact same thing on this show about Northwestern and all year last year in 4A. They didn't get to Orangeburg. Yep. So, as talented as you are, you can be beat. You can be beat on any given night. And the way that 4A is, and with who's in this classification, that can happen on several nights. I'm just, my eyes go Westside Daniel. I mean, that could be a incredibly great game if they matched up with South Florence again. That would be a great game. New running back at South Florence. Mm-hmm. Raises some eyebrows, not raises eyebrows, but goes, "Ooh, boy, that's a really good get for the Bruins." Just South Point, they're going to be super talented. They got a ton of talent too. We see Gray over the years, how good they always are and how they just carry themselves from pregame to postgame, how they play. There's a lot of people you could pick in this classification to be a front runner. Westside certainly, number 1 because of the talent. But boy, they better be coming ready every week. Yeah, let's start with the team that they defeated last year, the team that won state 2 years ago, South Florence. They lost 29 seniors, but Coach Marlowe's done a great job building the program there. They're not a flash in the pan. They got studs still. They got quarterback Messiah Jackson, running backs Zion Gilbert and Raleigh Jett. 4 offensive line starters are back. Lost a bunch on defense. They still do have the Clemson commit Amari Adams on the D line. I got Terry Gordon at linebacker, Cam Coe as well there. You mentioned the transfer.
Trey Leonard comes over from West Florence, I believe. It'll be a three-headed monster down the backfield for South Florence. They're going to be a good squad as well. Looking at Daniel, a team that, I mean, they are just a program that doesn't lose football games. 15-0 last year, 3A state champs. Do you have a bit of a quarterback battle going on? I think Grayson Cleary, Lee Turnipseed kind of fighting for that spot there. Running back Kareem Shaw stepping up there. Wide receiver Jason Bish. 7 D starters back led by Spencer Kahn and Tremaine Davis. Coach Brewster does a fantastic job there. A team that was in 4A just probably, 4 years ago, before maybe 2 classes ago. They're used to playing some of these bigger schools for sure. They are going to be another big-time contender there in the 4A class.
Yeah, and it's just every year we seem to have the same conversation about Daniel. We go, well, they lost this guy and they lost this guy. We know they're gonna have people step up. I think they probably return more people this year than they have the last few years. I don't know the exact numbers, but it feels like they're not losing as much production as previous years. And I know if I'm wrong on that, let me know. Tell me if you think otherwise, but it feels that way, which bodes well with coming up to 4A this year. But they're another program. I think of South Florence too. It does matter who the kids are on the field, but they look the same. Yeah. They are, with Daniel in particular, their offense it just puts so much pressure on defense, and they can throw the ball around like nobody else. They're a little bit unique in that fact that they can really stress a defense by going over the top. I expect they're going to be pretty similar like that again this year. And it's going to be great because they're not going to be the only ones more. You look at Westside, what they can do. Gray can take the top off of defense too. It's really, really cool to see the differing styles. And I'm just pumped about Daniel being in 4 right now because I feel like, gosh, these last few years, you go, man, they can compete there. They can compete there. They're beating everybody at 3A. So I'm glad we get to see it here for the next 2 years.
Yeah, this number 4 team right here, South Point. I'm interested to see what they've got. They haven't had the success the last couple of years since Coach Holloman left, when they won that state title. They've got, I'm not sure what the move is here. Jazavian Currents, big-time DB, tons of offers, all levels, D1, Power 5. Now might be playing quarterback for them and safety. I know they brought in Cam McMillan from Fairfield Central. It sounds like Currents may have the lead in that QB battle. See how that works out there, and if he continues to play both sides or not. You don't see a lot of at 4A, it feels like. So see how that shakes out. Do like Mason Pickett Hicks there at running back. He's a good player for them. That 5 spot, Camden, that's another program that is replacing a ton. You lose your starting running back, your starting receiver, your starting quarterback who's been there for 4 years now. You got some pieces like, JoJo Krim is back. He's a stud. You got a new quarterback, Wyatt Thompson, coming in there.
Who they really like.
Yeah, they're going to have to. I mean, that's a lot of production there. And we didn't mention Wilson Nash, stud linebacker. He graduates as well. Interesting to see what Coach Remp can do there with those guys. Gray Collegiate, Coach Bryant. I think they've got a solid squad, yet you worry. Same situation some of these other schools moving up is the depth. That could be the problem. Quarterback Tyler Waller, one of the better quarterbacks we've seen the last couple of years. Running up BJ Montgomery, he's got the juice. He's fast. He can play. You got Zion Job. You got some playmakers out wide, of course, with them as always. Think about Gray Collegiate, though. They have really good line play. Big guys up front. Trey Singleton had a huge game in the state title. I think he had like 6 or 7 sacks in the state title game last year. It plays great up front for them. He's a monster. Zeb Taylor as well. Michael Bulwer at linebacker is back. Aiden Legger is a guy in the back end that can play good ball for Coach Bryant's squad there. I think the War Eagles will be contenders as well in 4A, and I think they're a team that's just kind of gotten overlooked a little bit. They're 6th in this poll, which is a pretty good spot, I feel like. But I feel like the talk in 4A hasn't really included them a lot of times lately, it seems like.
Yeah, and, you look at Gray and you say, okay, well, what's their weakness? Really, I think the weakness is the depth.
Yeah.
I don't think you can point at a position group. Their special teams is great. On kickoffs, they're incredible. They had a big turnover in the Strom Thurmond game that we saw late in the year, late in the playoffs. Every phase of the game is good under Gray. Just you say, well, maybe their depth. I think Gray might be a bigger problem in 4A than people are thinking.
I agree.
I think where it's going to be interesting is once we get into the end of the fall and when you get in that back half of the regular season, the playoffs, will they be as fresh? Will they have enough guys? Because everybody's going to have some injuries. We hate that, but we know it's the nature of the game. Will they have enough to make a deep run? I think they've got the talent to do it. Will they have the depth at that point in the season? I don't know. Obviously they had a goofy year last year with their schedule. Shouldn't have that problem this year. Not going to have that problem this year. But it's great to be able to rest up a little bit. You don't have that luxury this year, but we're not going to know that. Nobody's going to know that until we get into, October, probably, when we get into these, and they're going to be a big time player in the playoffs. But I still think I would put the red arrow by Camden and the green arrow by Gray. I think Camden's really losing a lot of leadership with Grayson White at quarterback. I know they got talent too, but I think Gray's going to surprise some people, and I think Camden might be not a rebuilding year by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't know if they've got what it takes to compete for Orangeburg. I say that. I could be wrong. We'll see. But that's maybe my hot take for 4A.
Yeah, looking at the back part of that poll, Gilbert, first-year head coach Ozzie Exume. I like Trayvon Williamson. I like Crew Morris as well. Connor Gooding, they got some talent there. Brooklyn Casey, a team that always seems to find the right gear come around the region play. Coach Sharpie does a fantastic job there. They made a great run last year. Expect to see something similar this season. Midland Valley, they've been in the news lately, had some coaching changes late in the offseason there. Got to replace, I think it's 3,000-plus yard rusher Trayvon Dunbar. If not, he got really close. Huge year for him. Yeah, they got Preston Butler back, 3 starters on the offensive line, defensively led by Aiden Hawkins. I think Coach Dorn, who's stepping into that role, will do a good job. I think the Mustangs can be competitive as well. Hartsville, a team, Jerel, hopping in here if you've got a comment on this. I think Hartsville, you got Demarion Koback, a playmaker. Webb Barnes at linebacker, really good there. They do lose a lot. Carmelo McDaniel, McKendry Douglas. Hakeem Waters, a kid that got a lot of playing time last year, got injured in the spring. I know they're trying to get him back at some point this season. Not sure when. Jerel, do you know a timetable for that? I know we talked some other back here if it was region play or when they're thinking the team might be ready to roll there for the Red Foxes.
Only thing I've seen is, Coach Calabrese is definitely trying to take his time with it and not rush him back. It was a spring. I think it was a non-contact type injury. So you hate to see that, especially for him. He's had to kind of wait his opportunity really to be the feature back and the feature player there. And, for it to happen, him going into a senior year. So I think they're going to take their time with him, and I wouldn't expect him to play before region play.
Gotcha. John, anybody in the other receiving votes that we need to mention? And I guess read those out, and then we can, if we want to talk about those teams, we can. Because I will say there is one team in there in particular that I'm really high on that I'm surprised is not in the top 10 poll, and I think should be.
I'm thinking we're thinking the same team. All right, let's run through these. I'm going to just run through them, and then we're going to talk. We got Beaufort, and this is in a particular order.
Yep.
Beaufort, AC Flora, Greer, Crestwood, May River, North Augusta, and York all receiving votes. There's a team that wears black and purple that I think should be on this top 10.
Yeah, losing Javion Martin, we'll see what they've got there. But I think Coach Nelson's done a fantastic job. They'll be fun. The team I'm looking at, North Augusta, quarterback Corey Tillman, running back Michael Doe, are big-time football players, really quick, really explosive receiver. Connor Brown is back. He's a stud. They got offensive lineman Malcolm Gaston, got an FSU offer yesterday. Very nice. So they got some solid players up front as well. Defensively, I like DeAndre Baskett on the line. They've done a great job for Coach Bush there. I think the Yellow Jackets could be a contender as well. A couple teams that didn't make the receiving votes, I was surprised by, John. One of those, no other way to say it, they were maybe the story of the playoffs last year for a while. That's Lancaster. They won one game regular season, win 2 games in the playoffs. I like R.J. Brown a lot. He's an athlete, plays over the field. Then Kevin P. up front, a Georgia Tech commit. They've got some talent there. The Bruins do, I feel like. I want to mention Wren as well. Another team I thought should get some votes here. Wren, quarterback Colton Bagwell, 1,500 pass yards, 1,000 rush yards, 20 touchdowns. Running back Reese Price, 1,200-plus yards. Defensively led by Tyler Morgan and Cam Sanders. Then Coach Freight in year 2 can make those guys have a big run. They're in that region with Daniel. I think they've got a good chance to at least finish second right there behind the Lions.
Yeah, you talking about Wren?
Yes.
Wren is actually, they're going to be in region 1 with Emerald, Fountain Inn, Lawrence.
You're right. Yes.
Southside and
I think they're going to
West
shot to finish second behind Westside. That's what Yep.
but second place in that region, very gettable. However, let's see what can happen with Lawrence.
Hey, how about Fountain Inn as well? First year, the few you're going to have seniors there for
That's
Coach
true.
Nichols.
That's true.
Quarterback is a sophomore. I like him a lot. I cannot find his name right now. Sam. I know it's Sam. Where is it? Sam Holiday. I like him a lot. Running backs Gresham and Johnson. Third year of the program, like I said, first year with seniors. They're a program that I think could get in the playoffs this year.
That'd be incredible.
That would be super fun. Jerel, any teams you want us to talk about or you've got questions about from the chat that we need to make sure we mention here in this 4A preview?
Well, we would be remiss not to bring up the Buford Eagles. We have not talked about them.
Jimmy, the Buford Eagles had a tough year last year. Samari Bonds is back. Like you mentioned, has played a lot of quarterback there for them. Will Cotting, the linebacker, I like him a lot for Coach Libren. One of the better coaches in the state. Coach Libren does a fantastic job there. Last year, they finished 7-5. Didn't really have the season they were looking for, even though they had a winning season. Just didn't really have that explosiveness. They couldn't find it last year after they lost Casey Fields and Colton Ferris. But Jimmy, I do like your Buford Eagles to make some noise this year. They were in 2A before this last reclass. In 4A before this last reclass 2 years ago. Played for a state title, lost to South Point, then came into 3A, won a state title. Now back up in 4A there.
Yeah, I mean they're going to be tough. They're going to be certainly not an easy game for anybody. Buford's, they got the right guy at the helm. Really love what he does, and he is the definition of work with what you got. He won that state championship. They didn't put the ball in the air.
Yeah,
they didn't have to.
Hey,
I love the way he operates.
When it's working, it's
and
working.
I think we need to talk about that Region 6 a little bit too. We kind of get lost down there because they're so far away, geographically. But I think there's some cool programs and some cool stories. You got Bishop England there. You've got Bluffton, Colleton County's going through a rebuild right now. Hilton Head Island, who's always solid, and then also May River, a program that's kind of been up and down, but I think they're in the right trajectory. I think those are some really good programs. That's going to be a really fun region to watch in 6 there.
And May River, quarterback Tanner Macy's back. Great player for them. I like Sean Mitchell. He's a name to watch as well for them. And I believe, Jerel, if I'm not mistaken, they're switching up the offense this year, right? Going more ground and pound, a lot more physical offense there for Coach Bonneville. It'll be fun to follow them, see how they do. I like their chances to make some noise in that region. Bishop England, year one under Coach Logan Hall, a Pinewood prep guy last year, coached in South Carolina as a grad assistant before. Really sharp there. Just another question of the numbers. Coming up 2 classes from 2A, do they have the depth there to compete? But definitely, I do want to mention, good call there, mentioning out that Region 6.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, we'll got a couple more comments here we'll go through as well.
Greg, and the problem, Bradley, we know like on a 1 week, vacuum, certainly. But when it comes down to playing a full schedule, that's when you worry if you have the depth and whatnot.
I think that's coming from a couple of years ago. I think that's when Great Collegiate almost beat Gaffney at the reservation. I don't know about that one.
Yep.
But yeah, we got a little
Big West repeat. Hey, I mean, they're the favorites. I think they've got to be. They're loaded. Bulldog Brooks, get out of here, man. Appreciate you, my man. Look forward to talking ball with you all season long.
Let me go back to the top.
Patrick says Jaden Sellers.
Yeah,
exactly. He's back. Injured last year. He's back now. Yep. Cutter Woods the stud there, Patrick. Lots of South Carolina commits here in this 4A. Keeman and defense is stacked. And that's something they're going to have to lean more on defense this year. JoJo Krim, really like JoJo Krim a lot. He's a stud. They might have to lean more on that defense than offensively what they've been able to do the last couple of years.
And I hope Chris is still paying attention. I pulled up the schedule for Daniel. The region is a little bit lighter, but once their non-region schedule, they go Chapman, Jailman, Clinton, Seneca. Pretty difficult there. So I think they're going to see something, before they get to the playoffs, and hope they don't get too banged up. And going back to non-region schedules, I want to talk about Gray Collegiate. I know John mentioned the depth and things like that.
Got a couple comments on the Instagram about that schedule too.
And I hope they can make it to region play because they've got quite the schedule this upcoming year.
Yes. They've got Baylor. They've got Dutch Fork. They've got James Island. I mean, they are going to be battle tested going to region play, no doubt about it there for the War Eagles. Any more comments I've got here? Let's see what I've got. We've got the Win Sports is 4A is crazy, no doubt. Last time at South Lawrence getting some new players along with the West Side. No, they certainly are. Gray Collegiate, 4 out of 8 teams in Region 4 are top 10. That is super impressive. That's a deep region, no doubt about that. Looking back, I guess, to 3A and going to 5A, Yak says, Oceanside, Dutch Fork, who you got? I mean, you got to lean Dutch Fork there in that ball game.
Yeah.
Let's see. You got a couple questions about your Demons. Look off eligible. We'll get those here in 5A in a second, guys. We'll hit that. Midland Valley said that they were 12-0 before going to the West Side, and Trayvon did have 3,000 plus. You're correct there. Rob Brown says the boys are back. Rob, appreciate you, my man. We'll talk some ball with you here next week for week 0. People are asking about West Side and who would be in the lower state that could play West Side or whoever wins there. Obviously, South Florence is a team down there. We'll make our predictions here in a minute. Let's see. Talk about Sumter. We'll get to Sumter here in a minute. Myrtle Beach as well. We'll get to Myrtle Beach here when we get to 5A here in a second, guys. I do want to mention a couple players we haven't mentioned yet because they're studs. Yeah, Javon Edwards at South Aiken, Jerel, one of your favorite squads, 4,000 plus yards in his career. Can Coach Hamilton fix the defense? We shall see there. Richland Northeast has an NC State committed quarterback, Will Wilson. Same question. Can they stop some guys? That's the big worry there for them. Airport, our friends in there, the Eagles. Freshman quarterback Jay Edie, a name to watch there. Avery Jones, a playmaker for Coach Fiddler's squad. They had a good season last year. Can they build off of that? And then Darlington. They've got a really good quarterback, Jalen Augustus. People have not heard enough about him. He is a stud. I like what Augustus can do there for Coach Johnson. Jerel, any other teams we need to talk about before we maybe make some predictions here in 4A?
You know what? I think we've got them all covered. I was going to bring up Darlington. I'm glad you did that. Coach Johnson's done a great job, just going to be in his second year there with that program, getting them in the right direction. And then Fountain Inn, I think that's a cool story too up here, what they can do, finally playing with seniors, their third year. I think they've got some really good players. You mentioned the quarterback. He's very talented. So hopefully they can make a run and get into the playoffs at least. For
sure. Well, guys, who do you like in 4? I'll give you a second to think about it. If you guys are watching on Instagram, we appreciate you. It's harder to see the comments. Love to have you come over to Facebook and YouTube and comment on there. A lot easier to follow along. But if you would appreciate you watching either way, we do. We just may not get to your comment if it's on Instagram. We will try our best. And if you guys missed part of the show, you can always go back and watch it later on Facebook and YouTube. But who do you guys like in 4A? I mentioned it before we started this class. Absolutely loaded. Tons of talent all across the board.
I mean, I can't pick against West Side in the upper state. I just can't do it. But you know what? If they get beat by Daniel, I would not be surprised at all. I could see that happening, but they're the team to beat in the upper state. And then lower state, I think, is where it gets really, really tricky for me because Gray is in the lower state. Again, with South Florence, with all the talent they have, it's very, very hard for me to see them get beat in the lower state. But I think they're going to have to go through Gray to do it. I think Gray is going to very, very much be in the picture at the end of the year. But I like another rematch of West Side, South Florence. I'm going to say South Florence gets revenge and they win state.
Oh, John, you're going to pump up the West Side fans tonight.
Boy, I'm not taking that bait. Let me go ahead and get mine out of the way. I'm going West Side, South Florence rematch, of course, but I'm going West Side this time. I mean, I think that team's just too loaded. Coach Lane is one of the best in the business. I mean, the craziest thing is how we've changed our tune in a year. These guys last year.
They've proved it. They've answered every challenge.
We did not pick them, I don't think, to win a playoff game past the second round, and they just kept knocking teams off. They found ways to win. That state title game was amazing. They go down, you think that it's going to be a ball control game there with South Florence, and they're not going to have a chance to do anything, and they win that football game as well. Got to go West Side. I think it's evidence in this poll as well, and I think it's very deserving that they got all the first place votes. But I think West Side right now is the clear favorite, and I do like South Florence obviously in the lower state. I just don't think that they have enough, to get past the Rams. They're loaded.
Well, let's go make it 3 for 3. I like South Florence and West Side as well. I'm not going to pick a team to win. I'm just going to say that's who's playing the game. We're going to go with that.
That's no fun.
I'll make a pick later, but I think they're the two favorites. It feels like upper state might have a little bit more talent overall than lower state in 4A this year. We will see how that shakes out. Jerel, any more comments on the chat there before I pop in some of these Instagram comments here?
I think we're good on this side.
Got a question about Hillcrest. We'll get to 5A. Just here a sec, Cam. Just hang out for just a second there. Brody asked about MVP. Do we miss 3A talk? Yeah, Brody, if you missed it, you can go back and check it out on Facebook and YouTube later, or our podcast. We'll talk about all 3A. We're high on MVP. Look forward to follow those guys. And David asked about Swansea. Coach Willie Fox, year 1 there for those guys, a program that has a great community support around them. will it make noise this year? We'll see. But I like what Coach Fox brings to the program there. But Jerel, let's shout out some of our friends of the program before we move into 5A.
Preferred Home Services. How can we make you smile today? Preferred Home Services. For electrical or plumbing, cooling too. Go, 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 Preferred.
Carolina Orthopedic and Neurosurgical Associates, KONA, offers the most advanced training and experience in orthopedic surgery, neurosurgery, sports medicine, and pain management in the upstate. 3 convenient locations in Spartanburg, Duncan, and Greenville. Go to kona.care to learn more.
Okay, John, so before we get into 5A, in case you guys have not seen, South Carolina is splitting up the 5A class this year. There's a Division I, which are bigger schools, and a Division II, which are smaller schools. But in this poll, they combined them all. When we start doing our poll here in 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to break them out. We're going to have a top 5 for Division I, top 5 for Division II, but easier to follow that way. But that is not the way this one is broken out. So, John, let's run through the top 10 here. Other receiving votes as well. We will preface this. We don't know how the playoff brackets are going to shake out, so some of this could be a little bit confusing about who's actually going to go lower or upper for which division. So we may not pick a state title winner here because we don't know how it's going to fill out. But we will give some favorites, as always, for sure. But let's run through 5A. As always, guys, if you want to talk about your team, have a question, pop it in the chat. Love to hear from you and talk some ball with you.
Yes, starting at 10, we've got the Hillcrest Rams. 9th is Sumter. 8, JL Mann. 7th is TL Hannah. 6th, White Knoll. Number 5 is Irmo. 4, Northwestern. They get 1 first place vote. Number 3 is Somerville. Good to have them back toward the top. Gaffney, number 2, getting 3 of the first place votes. And then number 1, Dutch Fort, getting 13 of those first place votes for 5A.
I'm going to say it right now. This might be the worst of the polls. I don't like the side poll one bit. I think there are some mistakes here, some teams that are places they shouldn't be. I'm not going to say who it is yet. We'll get to that later. But I think this might be the worst of the 5. Dutch Fork at 1. Of course, not a surprise there. A team that's won back-to-back state titles, probably was it like 8 out of 9 now, something like that. I think it is, John. The quarterback's back, Ethan Offing, running back Maurice Anderson, wide receivers Boykin Bickley, KJ Smith, defensive lineman Josh Smith, a Coastal commit, DB Elgin Sessions, a West Virginia commit, studs all over the field as always for Coach Knox. Last year was a year where we thought somebody might get them. They had a bunch of injuries early on, started off slow, but man, they got hot in region play. Got a second seed, came to the upstate, ran that. Avenged their loss to White Knoll in the state title game. Coach Knotts always does a great job there. And then Gaffney, new quarterback, Javon Gilmore, coming up from Ben Lippin, an Arkansas commit as of about a week and a half ago, I believe it was. He's an athletic playmaker there. Running back Jaden McDowell, one of our favorite players in the state. He's been a stud the last couple of years there, running and catching the ball actually out of the backfield there. Receiver Jamarcus Smith. South Carolina commit Shed Surratt, offensive line. He's a big-time player. And then Andrew Rupp, a really good linebacker there for Coach Jones. Don't forget Coach Jones' last season as well. They definitely want to send him out with championship number 19 for Gaffney. I think both those teams obviously deserve to be at the top of that poll.
Yeah, for sure. They've earned it. And, Somerville at 3, they had a great season. Last year was the year of, hey, is Somerville actually going to fill these big shoes that they built for themselves for 2023 season? They did it. They had a great year. Northwestern at 4, coming up to 5A now from 4A, but certainly a 5A type program. They do lose a lot from what they had last year. I'm honestly a little bit worried about Northwestern at 4. Irmo 5, love AJ Brand over there with the Yellow Jackets. Whether they're 5 or not, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's enough. This is again 5A, as you would expect. A lot of good athletes spread around the state here.
Yeah, Somerville, I worry about Somerville a little bit. They lost a lot. Yannick Smith, Mr. Do Everything, out wide for the ECU commit. Now he's playing for ECU. I've seen some great highlights of him already in the spring and in the fall. He's done a great job. Quarterback Jaden Cummings is back. Athlete Jaden Kellen Murray is back as well. They've got some talent for Coach Rabbit. He's done a great job. Are they 3 in the poll right now? I don't know. Northwestern quarterback Finley Polk, 2,900 plus yards last year, 46 total touchdowns. Receivers Nichols and Vance. I believe they're moving DB Zymir Gordon-Miles to running back. Have not heard confirmation on that, but I think he could be a big-time player for them there. Really good on the D-line with Pickett and Greer. Will Massey at linebacker. And X-Factor could be Matthew Fish, the kicker. He's been a kicker for several years for the Trojans. A lot of experience here. He is an X-Factor when games get close. Lower down to the poll, Irma, you mentioned A.J. Brand. Huge year last year. We get these numbers right here. 2,900 pass yards, 45 passing touchdowns, 1,100 rush yards, 17 rushing touchdowns. Just a huge year for the VT commit. Donovan Murph out wide. Very big with all 5 O linemen back. They will lean on you. Coach Brand does a great job there. They're a dangerous team in 5A. White Knoll, Landon Sharp. Love that kid. One of my favorite quarterbacks in the state. Coach Pellin has done a fantastic job there. Landon's a great player. The Geronimo's are back as well, along with Tyon Fannin at running back. They're a team that I think will be there at the end again. Lost some on defense, of course. Lost some playmakers there. They've got a lot of talent returning. And I think now they're kind of level where they expect to win ball games.
Yeah, and you know what's great for White Knoll too, and I think this probably really started to click for them after maybe the second round of the playoffs last year, is not only do they expect to win, they know they can win.
Yeah.
You know, I know they lost the state championship to Dutch Fork, but they know they can beat Dutch Fork because they've done it.
Yep.
I think they've got, from a mental perspective, they're there. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing for teenagers. You got to believe in yourself, and to not only believe it, but know, hey, I can do it because I've seen us do it before. I think it's a powerful thing. I think White Knoll is going to be, they're at 6 here. I think they're going to be more competitive. I think they're going to be even better than that. I think they're going to be in the conversation for Orangeburg again this year too.
TL Hanna, always tough with that kind of triple option there under Coach Tone. Katie Patterson, a monster year last year. He's back at running back. Defensive back Cam Strong, NC State commit. There will be a tough out as always. JL Man, a team that's been on the rise lately with Coach Watson. They took Dutch Fork to the brink in the Upper State title game last year. New quarterback coming in. I believe it's McLeod Darnell. They think probably is going to win that job there. Running back Lenny Martin comes over from Greer. He's a stud. Just committed to Georgia State this week, I think I saw there.
Yes.
Wide receiver Keyshawn Henderson is a good player for them as well. Bruton and Whitner coming over playing DB from Greenville. Wyatt Ward, all-state linebacker. Coach Watson has a good squad there at JL Man, a team that went 11-3 last year. Sumter, a team that Jason asked about earlier on Instagram. Sumter always has talent. I think Peoples is back. Vance is back. The worry for me with Sumter, it was a worry I had last year as well, was the explosiveness. Where is it on offense? So they have that. Defensively, Anthony Addison at SC commit. He's a really good player on the edge there, but can they score enough points to win some of these ball games down the road?
Yeah, they're going to be good. I think this JL Man team is going to be really good.
Yeah.
Getting LaDainian Martin from Greer is a huge new look for them. The Whitner was playing at Greenville. He's a really, really good player too. They've got a lot of athletes on the field, and this is a program that, they were very close.
Yeah.
Obviously they were, I'm thinking about JL Man and TL Hanna, who went toe-to-toe with Dutch Fork in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Either one of them, you got to play, a play or two goes the other way in those games.
I believe TL Hanna missed a field goal to lose. Yeah.
They missed a field goal late, I believe. A play or two goes the other way. They could say, hey, we were right there, maybe being state champions. So you had some luck, maybe not luck, but you had a couple of plays that didn't go your way. If they go your way this year, that could be all the difference. And JL Man, I think they're going to be better than they were last year. They were really, really good last year too. They're not going to sneak up on anybody this year.
No,
everybody's going to be they're going to be ready for the Patriots this year, but they're going to be really good. And I think they're going to be. I think 8's too low for them. I think they're going to be very, very tough.
Yeah, I do want to mention that number 10 team there, Hillcrest. I think they're too low in the poll. A lot of talent coming back for Coach Swigert in year 2. Quarterback Caleb Sutton, his second year starting at Hillcrest, third year starting overall at quarterback. He's a dynamic athlete there. Obviously, you lose Avery McFadden. How do you make up for that? You can't do it in one guy. I mean, the guy was a stud and has been for several years. But they got some other guys who can make some noise. Braden Johnson comes over at running back. He came from St. Joe's. You got Weston Willis out wide for them. Defensively, Antrez Nance on the D-line. DJ Henderson at linebacker. Christian Henderson at DB. Came from Greenville. C-Raw Henderson, great player there on the back end for them. He's going to be a stud. Might get some time on offense as well for Coach Swag. And that's one thing I like about his program and that we saw last year with McFadden. And you may see more this year with Sutton and then with Johnson and now with Henderson and Willis is the ways he finds to get his playmakers the ball. Avery took snaps at quarterback, took snaps at running back, took snaps out wide. Like, he will find a way to give his playmakers the ball in space and give them good matchups. I think Hillcrest is a dangerous team there at 10.
Yeah, and I love the way Coach Swigert does that because, you got guys that are watching film on you from, past few weeks, however many weeks you play and you're part, watching film. Obviously the week before is what they're really watching. But gosh, you tell a kid, hey, I want you, when number 6 is out wide, do this and that. They're like, well, heck, coach, now he's taking snaps at quarterback. What do we do now?
How do we watch him now? Yeah.
It's tough. And they're set up well because they've got guys that can do, Caleb Sutton, versatile guys that can move well without the ball as well. Obviously playmakers and very lethal when they do have the ball. And that's just at the high school level. That's a lot to think about. That's a lot to account for defense. And this is the Hillcrest defense. If they can replicate what they did last year, I thought we talked about how the Hillcrest defense might be a little bit of the thorn for them. They showed they can play. They can play tough. If the Hillcrest defense can be pretty sharp this year, they could be dangerous, and they could certainly be a lot better than 10th.
Yeah, let's look at some of these other teams receiving votes here and give some comments on a few of those, and any other teams we want to shout out here as well.
Yeah, a lot of names here. We'll just run through them right quick. We got Spartanburg, Burns outside the top 10, Ridgeview, very, very good program, Fort Dorchester, James Island, Clover, Carolina Forest, and Greenwood. There's some really, really good programs outside this top 10.
Yeah, James Island's an interesting one to me. A team that has made some really big strides under Coach McCord the last 2 years in 4A, goes up now to 5A. Have had a really good defense lately. Do lose some pieces there. They do have Walt Woodall back, Dangerfield back, Scott back. Can they take a step in 5A and make some noise there? We shall see about them. Spartanburg, Coach Hodge, that team has gotten better and better every year, it feels like. Quarterback TJ Johnson is back. Also have Justin Rice back at receiver. Linebackers, Cameron Smith there. Trenton Lynch at running back as well. May see some Trey Burke quarterback too. We'll see how that works out for them. But Spartanburg is always a dangerous team in that side. I do want to mention a team that didn't get any votes, and I saw we had a comment on Instagram about this, and that's Berkeley. I'm not sure how they didn't get any votes because they were good last year with a freshman quarterback. Henry Rivers back now, stud for year 2 head coach Eric Lodge. They've got Kevin Boone, Caden Bash, both back at the outside on the wide receiver spots there. Kevin Rivers, a big-time player at linebacker, them as well. I think they're poised to make some noise this year in 5A. Obviously, probably a little more next year when Rivers is a junior senior. But I think they're a team that at least deserves some votes here in this poll, John.
Yeah, I agree. There's a couple names on here that I certainly would have Berkeley ahead of.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Drill, any comments wanted to chat out? I've got a couple more Instagram here. There's a couple more teams I do want to shout out, but see if we get any questions about them before I get to them, I guess. Myrtle Beach.
You guys thinking about Myrtle Beach?
Yeah. Year 2 for Coach Gibson Goodrow, or for quarterback Gibson Goodrow, excuse me. I like what they did last year. They had a good game against Irma in the playoffs. They kind of, played them tight, couldn't quite win it. They do lose Malachi Washington. I like John Simmons. He's a really good receiver for those guys. Defensively, I like the linebacker there, Ashton Keith, as well. I think they can make some noise in that region. I think the Seahawks under Coach Wilson there always do a fantastic job. I like the Seahawks make some noise this year.
I think they got a legitimate chance to win that region.
Yeah.
It feels like we've said this a few times in Myrtle Beach. They started off slow, but then, when the playoffs came around, nobody wanted to play when the playoffs came around. Yeah. I think Carolina Forest is my favorite in that region. In that region, this region 6, Carolina Forest, Conway, North Myrtle Beach, obviously, Socastine and St. James. That Myrtle Beach Carolina Forest game, that's going to be a really big deal.
Yep.
And I don't know when they will get them in the schedule, but if that's like game 9 or 10, I think that could really bode well for Myrtle Beach.
I would think late because I believe they usually play North Myrtle Beach to end the season. So probably,
should be
later
on.
You mentioned the Panthers. They always have a great offense there for Coach Morris. Quarterback Ethan Hamilton is back along with Finn Mahood out wide. They're going to be able to score points for sure. But I like Myrtle Beach's chances to make some noise.
Yeah, I think they're not going to sneak up on anybody.
How does anyone handle Lugoff Elgin in 5A? That's a great question. Yeah, new head coach Leon Bullware there coming in from Louisville. He's got some talent, not only in the program already, but some guys that have left are now back, it sounds like, for the Demons. They've got some guys that can make some noise. I think they've got a chance to surprise some teams. He's going to go with that high-power offense like they did at Louisville, and that is tough to defend if you just if you don't practice against it all the time. I think he's going to do a great job. I like Shamil Sadiq out wide. McCaskill and Smith on the offensive line are good players. I think the Demons are, John, trending in the right direction.
Yeah, and, I think this was a great hire. This is one of my favorite hires of the entire offseason. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but Ellie has struggled a little bit offensively last few years.
Yeah.
That's not the entire reason why they've been where they've been, but if Coach Boulware can infuse a little bit more life in the offense, and he sounds pretty confident that he can do it.
Yeah.
I think they can play defense well enough on a week-to-week basis to win some more games. And with the way that the 5A is going to be split, it's going to be a little bit easier, I think, to get into the playoffs. We're again not too sure how all that's going to shake out. But you look at their region, it's not the scariest thing on the planet, being that they're in 5A. They have been 4A. You got Blythewood, Ridgeview, Spring Valley, Sumter, Westwood, and West Florence. I think you can be competitive in half those games.
Yeah.
I think Lugoff Elsham's got a chance to be better. Give him a couple years, though. I think give Coach Boulware maybe 2 or 3 years to really make a mark.
Comment there about the Irmo defense. I mean, those guys were big, fast, and strong last year. They will be again with Brand back, all 5 O-line starters back. They're going to be a tough out for sure for Coach Brand. Patrick says we'll find out week 1 about Jailman. Yeah, Jailman Gaffney in week 1 will be a fun matchup there. Zach said, did I see where Burns lost a scrimmage to Dutch Fork 56-0 last night? I've seen another report that said it may have been worse than that. I don't know, but scrimmages can't take too much of that. But that is the report, or one of them for sure. Paul says lots of guys make plays at Hillcrest. Liz McFadden will be by committee. Yeah, exactly right, Paul. You got to have a bunch of guys step up. It can't just be one guy filling that role. But I think the Rams make some noise. Carlos asked about Fort D. First-year head coach there, Sean Lorenzano. I really like running back Ryan Campbell. He's a guy that made some plays in the state title game as a freshman 2 years ago against Dutch Fork. They've got Jackson King at linebacker as well. New quarterback. We'll see how that shakes out for Coach Lorenzano coming up from Florida. But as always, the Patriots always have talent down there.
They do. I think it's a little bit of an unknown this year with Fort Dorchester. I think what you harp on this offseason, well, we're not really in the offseason anymore. We got 2 weeks. But, man, I would drill home what happened in that White Knoll football game.
Yeah.
They got pushed around. They got pushed around on offense. They got pushed around on defense. You don't expect that from a Fort Dorchester program. Why that was the case on that particular night, maybe White Knoll was just that doggone good, but Fort D's they got to toughen up. You got to be better. You got to be more. You got to be better on the lines. We'll see what they can do here. Year 1, new coach at Fort Dorchester, but again, they've got the talent to where that ceiling's still going to be very high for them.
Yeah, Ridgeview, one of the better players in the state, at least a 2026 kid, Jordan Gidron. Great point there, David. Electric receiver, got offers from everybody, it feels like. The quarterback, Trey Howard, got some playing time last year. The coach's son there, he's back as well for those guys. They have some talent. Aiden Keefe at running back. Cleve Teller in the D-line is a really good player there. I think Ridgeview certainly can be a sneaky team, a team we've come to suspect and come to see has been a contender year in, year out, it feels like.
And they have been, I think, at least for me personally, because they have called me out, and rightfully so. When you think Ridgeview's going to lose a game, in my case, they've won those games.
Yeah.
So you can never count out the Blazers, and they're in that region 5 with Lugoff, Elgin, Sumter as well, West Florence. Being in the lower state, I think that can really help Ridgeview make more noise. I know people don't love to hear it, but the upper state is stacked.
Yeah.
In 5A, the upper state is stacked. Going to help Ridgeview being in lower state.
Slick says Stags beat Oceanside 10-0 in a scrimmage last night. Sharks quarterback is special. Yeah, Monavian can play, man. Berkeley, great win for those guys. Those are cool. Two really exciting programs this year. I like what Coach Lodge does at Berkeley. I love what Coach Wilkes does at Oceanside. 2 teams that we were really high on for sure. Patrick says Greenwood in town tonight. Didn't realize they were 5-8. Yeah, Greenwood, a team that they do have quarterback Tristan Lewis back. Last year they threw the ball a little bit more than they had in the past couple of years. You should see what they continue to do this year with that. Linebacker Nehemiah Cook is a good player for them as well. Landon's still a weapon on offense. Greenwood, always big, physical, strong. Are they 5A title contenders? Probably not this year. We'll see. But Coach Liner does a great job there with that team.
Yeah, I think with Greenwood, if they have a high-level quarterback, they can be very good. Now, I know they changed the offense a little bit last year. What they do this year, it's going to be interesting to see. So, they had been heavy option.
Yeah.
And, letting the quarterback really take the keys, take the wheel on that offense. And, a guy that quick in decision making and can be very decisive is very dangerous in that offense. Whether they go back to that this year or not, whether they have that decisiveness and have that kind of play, remains to be seen. But that's where I've seen a Greenwood team be really good when they have that kind of quarterback play.
Yeah.
Hey, we got the opportunity to mix two of our favorite sports, NASCAR and high school football here. So they've got a hard-hitting question here from David.
Mr. Richard Austin Dillon of 5A.
Ooh,
Somebody that's just basically just going to come in and take everybody out. So
everybody.
I'm going to read that as kind of like a sleeper, maybe. Is that kind of how we take that? Like somebody that kind of surprises?
Sure. I think so.
So I had a couple teams I had circled as surprises here in 5A. Do you want me to give just all of them? Maybe pick one. What do you want me to do here?
Let's pick. Let's
pick Jerel pick one.
I know Jerel's got one. He's really high. I'm not going to take that one from you, Jerel. I'll let you have them. But I've got a couple more that I really like as well.
All right, well, you go first, Jerel, because I've got two in my.
I don't know who he's speaking of.
Yes,
I don't know
you
this
do.
Team.
Don't let him break your hand, Jerel.
My 5A sleeper. Did they move up from 4A?
Nope. Don't let him break your hand. It's big old boys over there.
Oh man, you're right. I'm so glad you remind Bowling Springs.
Yes.
Bowling Springs. Lincoln Husky, the quarterback there. I think this is going to be his third year starting for that program. Coach Jerel, I think it's also his third year with the program.
Yep.
Bowling Springs, they're going to be a team to watch out for. I think they're going to surprise some people. I think they grew up. We saw them play Hillcrest last year, but I think that's the sleeper there. Bowling Springs. 7
returners back on offense, 6 on defense. Lincoln Husky, an All-American lacrosse player. How about that?
Very cool.
Did you know that, Jerel? Running back Javon Chin is back. Wide receivers Tristan Horsey Johnson, Kyle Patterson. Defensively, Johnson and Favorite are good players there. And you remember the name from Abbeville, Gavin Calhoun, linebacker, I believe running back as well, came from Abbeville to Bowling Springs. He can be a key player as well for Coach Jerel's squad.
I tell you what, I don't know. I can't get over JL Man.
Okay.
That's JL Man's a sleeper.
They're top 10 in the poll, John. Come on.
JL Man's a sleeper. JL Man should definitely
a non-top 10 sleeper. I'll go James Island.
Okay. I like that. So one team I want to mention here, a school and a team that has just grown exponentially last couple of years, Indian Land. Coach Adam Hastings, had a tough luck loss on a very shaky penalty call in the playoffs last year at Greer. But they've got an athlete playing quarterback, Sequel Patterson, Power 5 guy. He is a stud. He's a sophomore. He's going to be a big-time player for them. Also have a defensive back, Marion Davis, a BC commit. I like what Indian Land's got coming back. And then where's the other team I wanted to focus on? Maybe it's hard to call these guys a sleeper, but I think with what they've done the last couple of years, you can. And that's Rock Hill. Watch your Malik Clark, a Florida State commit. Quarterback Ian Grissom comes over from Louisville. Coach Randy Bursch, DC at Gaffney for all those years, did a great job there winning state title. Now at Rock Hill, I think the Bearcats can make some noise. Last year, Grissom, 35 touchdowns. I think they can be a solid squad. And another team in the same area, Catawba Ridge. Really tough year last year, 1-9, had tons of injuries.
Crazy.
But with that, you get a bunch of young guys getting experience. They're a little bit older this year. I think Brady Ambrose, sophomore DB Josh Dobson can lock down that defense there. I love Braylon Burgess, Quay Webb. I think they've got a good chance for Coach Lindak's squad to make some noise this year.
Yeah, that'll be a fun region. That'll be a really fun region.
Jump into your favorites, guys. We gotta go there.
Well, we got some comments from Instagram right quick. Hold on one second. We got a Myrtle Beach question. We talked Myrtle Beach, talked Berkeley. Do you think, so Felix Hunter says, do you think Easley Green Wave will surprise anybody in 5A under first-year head coach Sam Houston? Coach Houston was one of our favorite interviews of the offseason. Love talking to him. And they've got some offensive firepower. Quarterback Jay Stoker is back. He's really good. Wide receiver Matt Hillstock as well. Returning 3 offensive linemen, 7 starters on defense back. I think the Green Wave could be a surprise this year, guys. Got an Oceanside question. If you missed Oceanside, told them in 3A earlier on. Let's see. I had a couple comments on Ridgeview looking as good as Dutch Fork and White Knoll early in the year. Certainly could happen.
Okay.
Let's see. Preston asked about Berkeley's first 3 games. I'm not sure who they've got weeks in the first 3, so I'm not sure what to say about those exactly. A couple comments about LE. Let's see. I think that's all I've got on Instagram. Jerel, any other comments before we look at our favorites in 5? Like I said, not going to make picks because we're splitting them up into different divisions, but we can give some favorites across the 5A board.
That is all that I have on the comment section on this side.
Perfect. Well, favorites for me in 5A, you got to look Dutch Fork. You got to look Gaffney. Got to look Northwestern. I think those three are up there. I like Hillcrest as well in the upper state. Lower state's where it gets tricky for me. I don't know who I love down there. I like Carolina Forest, actually. I think they're a good squad. I mentioned Berkeley. A team we didn't mention, Lucy Beckham. They've done great things lately under Coach Smith there. What do they have coming back? We'll see. I think 5A is going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out with the playoff brackets when we really know who is going to end up where.
Yeah, I really like Somerville there, but if Somerville is Division I, okay, who do we think out of Division II?
Yep.
I really think, I think you got to talk Carolina Forest, probably maybe number 2. Ridgeview's got a stake of that claim. I think James Island's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah.
I would expect James Island would be in that Division II since they were 4A last year. That seems to be logical. So I think James Island's going to have a really good chance to come out of the lower state in that Division II level. Upper state, obviously, people aren't going to like to hear it, but until you beat Dutch Fork, I'm not going to. Guys, I got to see it. I got to see it. There's people that can do it. There's a lot of teams that can do it this year. For Gaffney, it would be an incredible storyline to do it this year. JL Man would be a great storyline as well. There's teams out there. Northwestern, after being the favorite of 4A really all year last year from the upper state to come up short. That would be an incredible story for Northwestern to make it to Orangeburg as well. Again, we don't know who will be Division II, Division I, but those teams certainly would be a good story. But I still think it's going to be Dutch Fork. I think the question is who they beat in the upper state championship. I'm going to say JL Man.
Oh, love it. Just answering that Berkeley question. Their first 3, they got Ashley Ridge. We'll see how Ashley Ridge is, losing Derek Sally last year, who I think had 2,000 yards receiving. He was incredible. Yep. Winter Park out of Florida. I think that's in the Orlando area, and then Somerville. So that's their first 3 games for Berkeley.
That's tough. I don't know anything about Winter Park. I really don't. Berkeley got smacked around pretty good by Somerville last year, looking for some revenge there. That will show us a lot. I think they beat Ashley Ridge. Somerville, we'll see. In Winter Park, I have no idea about Winter Park, so I don't know what to say about that ball game. Who do you like in 5A, Joe? Who are some of your favorites?
It's pretty much the same. Dutch Fork. It's Dutch Fork until it's not Dutch Fork. That is what it is. They've earned that respect. Gaffney is the same way. It's them until it's not them. Love Northwestern, but you just got to see what they've got to replace. White Knoll's the same way. They lost so much on defense, but I do like the trajectory of that program. I think Irmo is really poised to have a great season. We're not just talking about the defense, as we mentioned earlier, but that offense is going to be something special. Donovan Murph, the receiver there, is outstanding, getting a lot of P4 looks. But I want to give some shout-outs to Greenville County. I know we've talked about them. JL Man and Hillcrest. I do. I want to give those guys some love. Coach Watson's done a fantastic job. It's crazy to see the Patriots taking guys from Greenville High School, from somebody that's from that area. That's crazy to see that. And then Hillcrest. What is Caleb Sutton going to be, this year? How is he going to develop under Coach Swag, who has done a fantastic job, implementing his offense, a college-level coach, a great competitor? How is he going to be able to develop, Caleb Sutton there and get that offense humming? I think the Rams are poised to do some great things as well. So want to give a shout-out, but it's going to be fun. There's a lot of great programs and a lot of great teams. And I just don't understand in this poll, the one thing that I have the biggest issue with is not showing as much love to those low country teams. I know a lot of them are moving up from the 4A ranks, but these are some great programs, especially in that Charleston, Berkeley, county areas that have really played well the last few years and not really getting the love. And the last thing I'm going to say, I think Burns is going to drop off a cliff this year. I don't think they're going to be very good. They're going to have to play all their games on the road.
All the games on the road.
They lost so much talent. I think Burns is going to be a tough year for the Rebels fans.
And they're in as you expect every year, that region is nasty too.
I do like Zy Landrum at quarterback. He's a good player there. A couple comments on Instagram. Somebody asked about Greenville. We hadn't talked about him except for losing players this year. Coach J-Bo Shaw comes in, a name everybody has heard, familiar with there. Quarterback Banks Boughton, not sure if I'm saying it wrong. Let me know, guys. I'm not familiar with Banks, but he's a good player for them there. See what he can bring to the table. linebacker Jacob Christie, offensive lineman Hunter Taylor lead that Greenville squad. Another question about Clover. Coach Woolbright, year 2 there, had a good run. I think they won their region last year, John. They do have running back Landon Stoneback over 2,400 yards last year, 24 touchdowns. They will be a tough squad as well. Let's see. We've got a question about Irmo. Are they 5A? Yep, they are. Comment from David. So Somerville takes one of the divisions of Lower State and Ridgeview the other. Certainly could happen. Question about, does Dutch Fork play Colquitt this year? I do not believe they do. I don't think that is a matchup we will see
Dutch Fork
this season, correct. And any other teams we need to mention, Jerel, here in 5A? I know we ran through a lot of them. Anybody that we're missing that we might should talk about or we have questions about from the chat?
No, not at the moment. I think that is it right now. The only thing I got Zach asking about my TR Devil Dogs.
Yeah, talk about the TR Devil Dogs, Jerel.
Hey, man, really excited about Coach Chris Goodman coming over. I think he's going to do great things there. That's a community that's going to be great. Just doesn't have the football program, but I'm excited to see, what the Devil Dogs are going to be able to do.
And Dutch Fork does not play anybody out of state this year.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well, perfect. Well, Jerel, let's run some friends of the program out quick, and then we'll kind of wrap up the show and get out of here for the night.
At HTC, we're here to keep you connected. Here to provide reliable fiber optic internet with free, fast, and secure HTC Smart Wi-Fi. HTC, here to connect.
Set your kids up with a lifetime of financial success with Smart Start from Founders Federal Credit Union. Just like learning the rules of football, understanding money management is crucial. Our Smart Start products and educational resources help teach kids the basics of saving, budgeting, and smart spending. Give your young MVPs the skills they need to move the chains on their financial futures. Learn more at foundersfcu.com/smartstart. Federally insured by NCUA. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, this has been a super fun show talking through 3A, 4A, and 5A. Going to be 3 great classes again. As always, guys, if you missed it, you can go back and watch it later. It lives on Facebook, on YouTube. It'll be on our podcast pages as well. As always, follow us on Facebook, Twitter/X, Instagram, YouTube, and more at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS. MovinChains.com is our website, our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Movin The Chains is brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. We will have our week 0 preview show next Tuesday night about 7:15, 7 o'clock, something like that, going live, breaking down the games of the week, along with a statewide kind of glance as we kind of go through that. So definitely tune in for that. We'll have some great interviews coming out from some media days this week and next week, kind of getting some previews out for some teams. Definitely check those out there. As always, please share, tell your friends. We want to grow this audience. It's a lot more fun like tonight when we have comments rolling in. Makes the show easier, makes it a lot more fun to talk through some of these teams. Definitely let everybody know. We appreciate you guys as always. Crazy to think how big this has gotten from where we started a few years ago, John, but it is a lot of fun. As always, support us. Get some merch as well. Get your hats, get your toboggans, get your hoodies. We got great stuff. You can DM us. You can send us an email, mtcgear.sc@gmail.com, whatever's better for you. Love to get you guys supporting the boys. Love to see it out at the ball game this year. Wearing an MTC hat. If you go to a jamboree this year, let us know. This Friday, let us know. Love to get your thoughts on that. We may go to one, may not, see what our schedules look at, but it will be a lot of fun. Jerel, John, any last second thoughts here before we shut down for the evening?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I know I can't really wrap my head around all the logic behind the Region 1 or Division 1, Division 2, and 5A, but you know what? It's football, and it's going to be fun no matter what.
Anything from you, Jerel?
Just excited, man. The next time we do this next Tuesday, we will actually be breaking down football games. So, we'll be week 0 and we'll actually be getting into it. So super excited about that. Hope everybody has fun at the jamborees. Hope everybody stays, happy, healthy as we kick off next week. And, great show as always, guys. You guys killed it. Analysis is on point. I think we covered just about every team in these classifications. If we missed you, sorry. Hit us up and we'll try to interview a coach or something like that. So, but yeah, really fun.
For sure. Well, for Jerel Hendricks and John Epps, I'm Kevin Thomas. This has been our 3A, 4A, and 5A season preview show here on Movin The Chains. We appreciate you guys as always. We will talk to you soon.
Get ready for the ultimate South Carolina high school football experience with Movin The Chains. From previews to recaps, we've got you covered. Dive into our expert preview shows, predicting winners and sharing insights. Then join us post-game for the thrilling recaps, exclusive interviews, and highlights you won't find anywhere else. Plus, connect with fellow fans on our Friday night spaces on Twitter/X. No one covers South Carolina high school football like us. Join us at Movin Chains on all social media platforms and visit movinchains.com today.